Readers Entertainment Radio presents Booklights with your host, author Lisa Kessler. Booklights, where we're shining a light on good books.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in to Booklights today. You are in for a treat. You all know, if you're longtime listeners, that I am a huge fan of spooky season. This is my time of year, and we have on all scary books in October. And to kick us off this month, we have Alma Katsu, who was described by Stephen King as deeply disturbing. So I can hardly wait. Her new book, Fiend, is out now. And if you haven't read Alma's books yet, I will read her bio here so you can get to know her. Alma Katsu is the author of 8 novels, most recently Red London, The Fervor, obviously The Fiend, it just came out, Red Widow, and The Deep. Prior to the publication of her first novel, she had a 35-year-long career as a senior intelligence analyst for several U.S. agencies, including the CIA, the NSA, as well as RAND. Katsu is a graduate of the Master's Writing Program at Johns Hopkins University and also received her bachelor's degree from Brandeis University. She lives in West Virginia with her husband and is a contributing reviewer for the Washington Post. And you can find out more about her on her website. I did put a link to her website right in the show notes. So be sure that you click on that, sign up for her newsletter so you won't miss the next book. And without any further delay, Alma, are you there?
I'm here. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Oh, I'm so excited to chat with you. Tell us about Fiend. It just came out. Why should people go grab a copy?
Well, it's great for people who are angry. It's the story of a family, the Risha family. They're one of the wealthiest families in the world, but they've been dogged by this rumor that maybe, the reason for their success isn't so good. Maybe they cursed. Maybe they have some kind of special power on their side. Well, it all comes crashing down when the middle child, an adult now, Maris, decides that really she's the best person to take over the family, both as the CEO of the family's corporation, but also of the family itself. And she thinks that her brother Darden, who's the eldest and the only male, he doesn't have the killer instinct. He's not at all like their father, Zeph, and she just idolizes their father. So when she starts on this campaign to try to get her parents to make her the heir apparent, the family secret ends up getting sort of revealed, and the whole thing comes tumbling down.
I love it. And I was reading when I was researching about the book, I love that you talk about that there's a demon, but they're blessed. And I love the dichotomy of that. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So they're a rich family and things always go their way. Surprise, surprise. And, a lot of times when people who seem to have an abundance of things, who are very privileged, when things go their way yet again, they often say, that they're blessed. They're just blessed. Of course, they're successful because they have found favor in the eyes of God. But is that really what's going on? Is that really it? That's what this book asks that question.
Oh, I love that. What was the inspiration behind it? Obviously angry. There's a lot to be angry about right now. but what was your inspiration behind this? I'm going to write about this horrible family.
Well, a couple things. It's probably pretty obvious that the TV show Succession was a bit of an influence. The funny thing is, when it first came on and I tried to watch it, I didn't like it. I thought the characters I just could not warm up to them. And it wasn't until the last season when they really got a lot of critical acclaim, I thought, okay, as a writer, I should go back and watch it because the writing was outstanding. And this time it took, and I really came to admire that show. But really, the big inspiration was probably the Sacklers. After I watched that miniseries, Dope Sick, that really showed how they were complicit in, masterminding this multi-billion-dollar, fleecing of the American public and responsible for the deaths of so many people.
Right.
It made me mad, and it just made me wonder, why isn't the public holding people like this more accountable?
Right. Well, and also the idea of writing a book where the characters are not the most likable. Was that fun for you or was that difficult? How do you make people keep reading when they hate the characters?
I know. It's, I mean, I think, and readers have told me that the characters are still very engaging. One thing I did was I put some chapters in there that showed them the three children. They're adults now for most of the book, but show them as kids and showed how they started out and how they weren't the people that they ended up becoming and showed how they got there. And I think that's one of the things that keeps people really engaged with it, because they want to see how everything turned out. But then there's also the question of the demon. Is there or isn't there?
Right.
Do they really have a demon, or is it sort of an excuse for, behaving badly? They can just blame it on something else.
Right, right. Obviously, it's this thing, not us.
Right.
Well, when you were writing the book, did you have like a scene that ended up becoming like your favorite of the book without any spoilers? But is there a favorite?
Wow, it's hard. That's hard to say because the book is written purposely to be very quick, to be a really fast read. And the linkages between what happens in one chapter and then what we see happen unfold later on is not super apparent, right? So I ended up having a lot of chapters that I liked a lot. And they kind of stand on their own. When I was picking out like passages to read at events, there
Right.
was just so many that I wanted to choose from. One of my favorite ones is when Maris is very young and she hides away in the cupboard for this annual event that is a total mystery to her, and honestly, a total mystery to most people, which is the family conclave. And that's
Oh,
when family members, Berishas, from the world over come to New York to grovel before Zeph, who's the head of the clan, and ask him for favors or money. Um, and she sees what that really entails. And it's really his way of buying people's loyalty and their silence for the things that he does that he says is done on behalf of his family.
right, right. I love playing with that line over, power. If you choose to use it benevolently, there we go. It's Monday. Or if it tilts the other way and leans you toward, well, this is bad, but I can justify it by, right.
I do think that's, the question asks, how can people be like this, right?
Right.
And that's what I try to show in the book, that it's more of a slippery slope. And, some of that I've come by in the course of my job back in the 90s when I was an analyst and I was looking at war crimes and atrocities. And I would, have to study and follow these people who were doing some of the most reprehensible things on the face of the earth, right? They were exhorting their citizens to,
Right.
massacre their neighbors. And, you see firsthand that no one ever thinks, oh, I'm just going to get up and be evil today. I'm going to do something bad. They always feel like it's justified. So that's what we see here. We see how these people end up justifying doing some, obviously pretty evil things.
Right, right. Well, when I don't know if you're a plotter or pantser, but when you were writing this book, did it give you some surprises? Like my favorite is when a character goes, "No, I'm going to the right, not the left," and I'm like, "Wait a second, what's happening? Where are we going?" Did you have moments like that in this book?
This book was was the most different book for me because normally I'm a very intense plotter, and you really kind of have to be that way if you're writing historical fiction. But also my spy novels, there's a lot of subplots, and they're all sort of interrelated, so you have to plan those out very carefully. This one came to me, the idea almost entirely whole, and just came to me all at once. So
Wow.
I actually didn't do any plotting for this one.
You just let
No,
it write itself.
I was really weird. It was like magical in a way,
Wow. Uh-huh.
and so much fun to write a story that way. I hadn't had that opportunity before. But after it was done, I realized that I had to go back and write those chapters that show the three siblings as children to
Mhm.
give them that added dimension. So that might have been maybe the only real surprise there.
Okay, yeah. I love those unicorn books where they just write themselves. It does not happen very often, but when it does, it's like,
It's a
oh,
gift. It's
I'm
a
just
gift.
taking dictation. I like this.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you about your writing journey because you mentioned that you were an analyst, and obviously that must have been hard work to have to read about horrible atrocities and figure out what laws have been broken and all that kind of stuff. But how did that turn into a fiction writing career? What was your journey like?
Well, I know it seems so strange to a lot of people. I mean, if people know me primarily for books like The Deep, and The Hunger, then they're always surprised when they find out that, oh, well, I'd actually had this career, right, in intelligence.
Right.
And vice versa. People who knew me as an analyst were surprised when I started writing novels pretty late in my career. But it all started because when I was young, of course, I wanted to be a writer. I was a reader, and I think that's where most writers get started. We start
Mm-hmm.
out with our nose in a book, and we just want to be part of that world. But as I was graduating from college, and this was before the internet, I had no idea, how does one become a novelist, right? There was just no apparent path except um, newspaper reporting. Like, that was a visible way of how you could make a living with words. So I
Right.
did start as a newspaper reporter, and I started writing short fiction. But then I got the opportunity to go work starting at the National Security Agency, which was this whole world I knew nothing about. And, at that point in my life, people who knew I wanted to be a novelist were always telling me, oh, you can't be a novelist. You're too young. You haven't had any life experiences. And I thought, well, moving to Washington,
Here's some.
D.C., here's a weird life experience. And I never expected to have a whole career. I thought I would leave after a couple years, but it was a very different career. It wasn't at all what I expected. I really got the chance to do a lot of things, learn a lot of things, have a lot of experiences. But I went back to writing when I was 40. I had to stop because back in the early days of my career, they really did not like you doing anything on the outside, meaning,
Right.
even if it had nothing to do with your intelligence career. So I was kind of forced at a certain point to give up my outside writing, which at that point was music criticism. I covered the
A
Washington.
music critic
I
put you
know.
at spy risk? What?
I know. Well, they made people stop who like wrote gardening columns and, wrote up the
Wow.
notes for their church. I mean, this was back in the 80s, right? It was a lot
Wow.
more paranoid. So I stopped and I didn't come back to writing fiction until I was 40. And that first book, The Taker, it took me about 10 years to get to the point where it was saleable. So I didn't have my first sale until I was 50. So, but I've been lucky enough to have a writing career since then, 15 years, 9 novels. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I love for any of our listeners out there who are mostly readers, but I know a lot of them are trying to write. And a lot of us have this internal dialogue of it's too late, but it's never too late, right?
It's never too late. No, it's not the writing part that might be harder when you get older. It's the promotion part, which,
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, in the 15 years, it's changed a lot. And it really falls extremely heavily on the author to do their own promotion. And that is for the most part social media. So, if you're the kind of person who just has a really hard time putting themselves out there, doing social media all the time, that's a big part of the career these days, unfortunately.
It is. It is learning how to make a TikTok video. Dang it. Um, uh, but but I wanted to talk about you mentioned The Hunger and The Deep, and both of those are have lots of supernatural, but you also wove in historical, like The Hunger is the Donner Party. And I always, part of why I enjoy horror so much is I love adding in a supernatural angle where, you can look at humanity from a different angle. There's always the undercurrent in horror of who is the real monster. Is it the monster or is it the humans, right? And horror is like sci-fi sometimes can do that too, but horror really gives you that perspective where you can look at it totally different because of the supernatural angle. And when you were deciding to, obviously you like historical research and things, but I mean, how did that come to you to look at the Donner Party and go, maybe there was something else there?
Well, it's funny. Nowadays, I understand they don't really teach about the Donner Party much in school, kind of on the West Coast to a degree. But when I was touring to support the book, I found that a lot of people really didn't know who the Donner Party was.
Really? Because I'm from the West Coast, so we did know. And the kids had the Oregon Trail. My kids grew up with Oregon Trail.
That helped a lot. That helped a lot. A lot of Oregon Trail fans read The Hunger. But I had I had heard about it when I was in school. They still taught it. And I had done a little research earlier for something I was working on when I was in graduate school. So, I knew that the story of the Donner Party was much more than what most people who knew about it thought of, which was what happened at the end, when they were snowed in Donner Pass and they were they seemed cursed from the outset. Strange things happened to them all along the way. And I thought, well, that's perfect for a horror story. What if the wagon train was cursed? What if it wasn't just misfortune? And there were other things too, but yeah. And I agree. I think what makes things like historical horror, interesting for readers is it gives you, or actually just horror novels in general, it gives readers another way to look at terrible things and almost like from behind their hands, right? Like they're playing peekaboo with terrible things. We're not asking them. And this is kind of where my background in genocides and mass atrocities comes in. That's really horrific stuff. And it's real. It happens, unfortunately, a lot more frequently than anyone would like it to. And I understand that most people can't come right up face to face with that reality. But when you write a horror story about it, it almost like it softens it a little bit. I call monsters the spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, that's why I think some people are drawn to horror.
Yeah. It's also a way to have an emotional experience, but know that you're still safe. Where you can go, in a haunted house, or you can be chased by vampires or whatever, and your heart can race and you can go, oh my gosh, and you're turning the pages, but rationally that you're safe. It's really the only way to experience those things in a safe environment is when you're, reading a horror book or watching a scary movie or something like that. It gives you the ability to experience things, but still be safe.
Yeah. And having that supernatural creature, right? That otherworldly thing in there is like a marker for your psyche. Of course, it's not true. Look, there's this thing, right?
Exactly. And the really scary ones help you come along on the journey, and you suspend your disbelief and you're like, wait a second, could that happen? Are there vampires in San Diego? I don't know. So that's
amazing how many people want vampires these days.
Yeah. True. Nowadays, they're much sexier. I wanted to talk to you too about the deep, because it involves the Titanic, and that the Titanic is like the ship that will never die. It's just, and then we had the submersible accident. I'm like, oh my gosh, something's got to be down there that's luring people. What else could it be? And then when I was reading about your book, I'm like, yes. Do you want to tell people a little bit about the deep? Because that might be a great spooky season read too.
Sure. That was my second historical horror. And it is sort of a reimagining of the sinking of the Titanic, but not just the Titanic, because it had a sister ship, the Britannic, which 4 years after the Titanic also sank.
Wow. Right? I didn't even know about that. What?
Right? So it's a story about both sinkings and some supernatural goings on that sort of link the two. Uh, in fiction, link the two sinkings. So it's so The Hunger, which is the reimagining of the Donner Party story, is probably my best known book. It's sold hundreds of thousands of copies. It's been reprinted in 17 languages. The Deep is very different from The Hunger, even though it's still a historical novel, like The Gilded Age, which is when it was set, when the sinking happened. It's very lush and romantic and very gothic. So, yeah, there's some readers who, it's a great fit for them. Maybe something like Fiend or The Hunger isn't quite right, but they find that it's like a Goldilocks book, right? It's
Right.
just right.
Just right. So any fans of the Gilded Age out there might really enjoy The Deep if they want something a little spooky.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, what's next for you? What are you working on now?
Wow, there's been so much going on. We have three properties that are in development for TV, including Fiend. That's been
Wow,
optioned for TV.
congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
Thank you
Wow.
very much. And the other two are some of the spy stories. And let me think, what else? We just had a story come out in the Stephen King, well, it's not a Stephen King anthology, but there was an anthology that came out recently based in the world of Stephen King's novel, The Stand. The anthology is called The End of the World as We Know It. And it made the New York Times bestseller list. It was an instant New York Times bestseller. And so I had the story in there, and we were doing a lot of promotion for that. So that was very exciting.
Ah,
Um, and I just turned in the manuscript for my next horror novel that hopefully will come out sometime in 2026, but I don't have a date for it yet. It's called Incarnate.
ooh.
And the log line for it is the picture of Dorian Gray for the 21st century.
Oh, nice. I
Thank
like it.
you.
I like it. Very cool. Well, I want to touch on, before we run out of time, I want to touch on the spy books. And when you are writing them, I'm assuming that they are highly realistic since you were in there, but how much do you have to change so that you don't get in trouble?
Yeah. Well, as you may know, if you write about, when you get a security clearance, you sign a non-disclosure agreement saying that you will give the agency, whichever agency you worked for, a chance to review stuff before it gets published or put out publicly, if it has anything to do with the work that you did. So, obviously, any of the stories I write that are in the world of intelligence will qualify for that. So they always get reviewed by CIA.
Really? They
Oh
read
yeah.
it first before you shopped it around?
So it varies a bit. Like, um, I've been doing a lot with CIA. In addition to the two novels, I did some like novella length pieces for Amazon Original Stories, and I've done some other stuff too. So they know me and they know they can trust me. And they also know that, I'm under contract and that the first draft of a book I write might look very different from the one that actually goes to the printer.
Right.
So, they trust me to raise, if there's going to be an issue early, to maybe raise it to them. But generally, I don't have to turn it in for their review until we get to a final version.
Oh, okay.
And I've been very lucky in that they haven't asked for any changes of anything I've written because I think I have a very good sense of where the line is. So the books have been, both the books, Red Widow and Red London, have been praised a lot for how realistic they feel and how authentic. But at the same time, you're absolutely right. You can't give away secrets. So
Right.
sometimes you've got to sort of make up or gloss over
Right.
something, so that you stay on the good side.
Right.
But also readers have expectations, especially from decades of movies and things like that, the Mission Impossible series and James Bond and Jason Bourne. It can't be too true to life because it would actually be maybe a little too boring. So you have to throw in a little bit of spice sometimes. So it's a good mix.
Right. I had a thriller team on Jeffrey Deaver and Isabella. But anyway, they had a book out and she had a long career in police force, and we were talking about the book, and she said, yeah, if I put in the actual way that you she said it'd be so boring of questioning all the people and marking people off and checking their alibi. And so I get that you have to, sometimes
you have to fudge it a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it more exciting.
Yes.
Are there going to be any more Red Widow books, or is that series done?
That unfortunately, that series is done. This is one of these cases, it's the publishing business. There's been a lot of interest in more books, but one of the things that's been really, really hard in this career is the fact that I write into such very different genres.
Right.
I probably couldn't think of two genres in which the readers of one will not read what's in the other one.
Really? What?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, horror readers might not necessarily care much about geopolitical things and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's just been really hard on my career. So at one point, Putnam, who publishes me in both genres, said, we're going to put a pause on the spy novels and we're just going to concentrate on the horror. And that's fine. But now I'm sort of released. So I hopefully will be announcing soon. We have a new publisher for spy novels. They won't pick up the Red Widow series because most publishers won't if another publisher controls, part of those books. So it's going to be different. And hopefully we'll have an announcement soon.
Oh, yay. Well, during spooky season, everybody gets asked what your favorite supernatural creature is, but that could be a house, a haunted ship. I mean, what is your favorite supernatural to read about, dive into, that you want to write,
Well, if you would ask me before this book, I probably would have said vampire because I'm a very gothic girl. I love that stuff. And I've always wanted to write a really good vampire novel. But after writing Fiend, I really love the freedom of the demon because its mythology is kind of so open. It can almost be whatever you need it to be. And it's just this sort of menacing, threatening presence, right? That you as a writer have at your command.
Yes.
So, it was a lot of fun. And I might want to go back there. Yeah.
Write some more demons.
Some more demons.
I love it. And then our other traditional question is your favorite scary movie. What's your favorite scary movie to watch during spooky season?
Oh, that's so hard. I tend not to rewatch movies a lot. So I don't know. I mean, I love I can't remember the full title, but the Dracula that was done that had Gary Oldman in it.
Yes.
That was so beautiful and lush. I liked
Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm
really looking forward to Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which should be coming out soon. That looks pretty amazing as well. Yeah.
Did you see his Wolfman? That was fantastic.
I think I did. I can't remember. That wasn't the one with
Anthony Hopkins was in it.
Yes, I did see that.
Yes.
It was very good.
It was very, very gothic, and I loved it. The weird town. And
so you're a goth girl too.
I am. I love when the spooky place is also a character. That makes it for me. That Sleepy Hollow movie with Johnny Depp, just when he comes over the bridge and there's just a fog that sits over Sleepy Hollow. Oh, beautiful. I love those kind of atmospheric spooky movies, because in a book you read it and your mind makes that up, but being able to see it visually in a movie, if they can create that spooky atmosphere, is just it's my favorite. There was a movie, The Others, with Nicole Kidman. I don't know if you ever saw it.
I did not see that.
Oh, you should stream it. I won't give anything away. It's got such a great twist, but the atmosphere of that house on a little island off the UK where it's always cloudy and her kids are allergic to sunlight, so the curtains have to be drawn. It just sets up such a spooky, it's wonderful, delicious movie.
I will have to. I mean, I heard what the twist was. I didn't understand the setup that you just gave me. So that's pretty interesting. There have been some really great movies lately. especially with that atmospheric aspect of it. Like, I don't know if you saw The Damned, came out maybe 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's set in a very remote fishing village. I think
Oh,
it's like roughly pre-turn of the century. It's a fishing camp that's run by a young woman. Her husband died, and so she had to take over the business interest. And it's just staffed by these very rough fishermen who come from this specific area. If you like atmosphere, you'll love that.
I can't wait. I wrote it down. I'll have to watch that one. I just watched Oddity. It's on Amazon Prime. And that one's got the weird atmosphere of this weird old house. And anyway, it was enjoyable. The whole movie for me was worth it for the very final scene, the last thing you see before the credits. I was like, there we go. It was
Now I'm going to have to watch it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, Oddity. You'll love it. It was great. But that last scene, chef's kiss. So I could chat horror all day, but I'm gonna wrap us up. Can you tell readers when they get so excited after they read Fiend, they love to get in touch with the authors? Where are you? What's the best way for them to reach out?
Well, I'm on most of the social platforms, but really the best way is to subscribe to my newsletter on Substack. So if you just go to Substack and search on my name, Alma Katsu, it'll pop up. That's the best way to stay in touch with me. And I answer all the comments. So you feel free to just comment and I'll get back in touch with you.
Oh, that sounds great. And I did put a link to your website right there in the show notes. So if anybody wants to grab The Hunger, The Deep, the CIA books, they're all on her website. So be sure to check those out. And thanks so much for being here today and kicking off Spooky Month.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to kick off Spooky Month with you.
Yay.
Thanks for joining us on Booklights. Be sure to connect with us at www.readersentertainment.com for articles, blogs, videos, and podcasts that matter to readers.